Self-awareness. Now, before we get into self-awareness, let's talk a little bit about why we coach. Now, when you think about why we coach, let's take Olympic athletes just for a second. Why would they need a coach? They know what to do. They have the skill set. They're the highest performing athletes in the world because often coaches see things in people that they typically don't see in themselves. We can point out different techniques or different flaws or different strengths or what have you. So the fact of the matter is when we think about why we coach, coaching is really fundamentally a two-step process. Number one, it's getting someone to look in the mirror. Number two, it's getting someone to take action on step number one, which very few people do arbitrarily on their own. So how do you get someone to look in the mirror? First of all, you got to help them purchase a mirror. I'll save you the suspense. Most of your employees don't even have mirrors in their house. So the way you get someone to look in the mirror more than anything and develop some self-awareness is start with their strengths. The Gallup organization does some amazing work. And one of the things that they point out is when you lead with strengths, people engage 8 times more. So think about that. Now, fundamentally, when we say to an employee, Johnny, Julie, come into my office, what happens? They usually think, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? So when we're coaching, we have to get people to become self-aware. Start with strengths first and foremost. So how do we go about developing, when you think about developing self-awareness, when you think about doing that, you have to first start with an understanding of your own leadership style. So think about the battle of telling versus asking. If I go up to you and say, you know what, I'm really getting frustrated. You have a negative attitude. What's your first response? It's usually to push back. It's usually to say, I'm defensive, or how dare you? I'm going to come up with every reason why you're wrong. Here's the funny thing. Let's take negative people for a second. Do you know what's funny about them? Most of them know that they're negative. Most of them deep down know that they're negative people. Yet when you tell somebody, nobody wants to be told anything. Doesn't mean we're wrong. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't do that at times. Yet if I were to say, where do you have an opportunity to leverage some of your strengths and really engage with your teammates positively? That's using a technique called framing that conditions them to think differently. It creates a physiological and emotional different set of thoughts that go through their mind. Now, if I say you have a crappy attitude, you have a different emotional response versus saying, what are you going to do to successfully engage with your teammates? And what's the benefit to you if you want to become a future leader? That's where I just brought in their motivation. So when we understand the battle of telling versus asking, it's a game changer. Now, let's talk about a highly self-aware person. It's a person who seeks feedback. It's a person who accepts feedback, void of agreement or disagreement. Think about that. See, I think our school systems have set us up to fail. See, I think we are so pass fail, A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever the grades are, and we have these tangible things. See, when we give someone feedback and we give them insight to where they can look in the mirror, most people don't do what? They don't sit there and say, yeah, you know what, I do have a bad attitude. They get into this defensive stance. It triggers a defensive stance to push back. So it begs the question of perception versus intent. So if I say, geez, you have a crappy attitude, my intent wasn't to make you feel bad. My intent was really to point out, but I didn't really approach it very well, right? So think about why we coach. It's to get someone to look in the mirror. Number one, more than anything, whether it's training, whether it's feedback, whether it's mentoring, whether it's coaching, it starts with the person's ability to become self-aware. Most people are not. I have said it before. I love Tasha Urich's book, Insights, where she said in a survey, 95% of the people said they were highly self-aware. And then when she assessed them and truly got a validation of where they were at, only 10 to 15% were. That's an 80 to 85% fallout. That means 8.5 out of every 10 people in our companies are kind of fooling themselves. So what do? We have to first think about a highly self-aware person. Define it at your company. Define it in your teams. It's a person who seeks feedback on a regular basis, 1 to 2 times a week. It's a person who accepts feedback openly, professionally, void of agreement or disagreement. Number 3, it's a person who will develop and seek actions to alter the perception so they can raise their self-awareness. Now, I'm going to give you 3 great questions. These are our 3 self-aware questions that we teach in one of our courses. Number 1, what did you learn about yourself? What did you learn? And what did you learn about yourself you're positively committed to improving? So number 1, what did you learn? Number 2, what did you learn about yourself you're positively committed to improving? Number 3, what positive action steps are you going to take based on those learnings to move in a positive direction? It uses a technique called framing. So anytime you have a mentoring session, a coaching session, a training session, ask those 3 questions. What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself you're positively committed to improving? What actions are you going to take based on those learnings that will move you in that direction or that desired direction? Now, let me just teach you something, and this is going to take up the whole screen. This is something that we teach called QALMS. QALMS stands for Questions, Activities, Learning Projects, Motivator, and Supplemental Coaching. What I want to do is I want to share with you a very quick story. We were working with an organization, and one of the presidents of this organization said, I want you to meet one of my vice presidents. I said, okay. And we had lunch, and I've told this story before. I'll never forget it. And we were across the table. We were talking about networking, and really the objective of the meeting was to get an impression of this guy. And this guy leans across the table. He goes, I really want to work with you. I really want to work with you. And he's pointing, and he touches my nose. And the president just kind of smiled because he saw it. And so I looked back at this gentleman. I said, do you pick it too? He said, pick what? I said, my nose. He didn't even know he touched my nose. And so I want you to think about when I just showed you QALMS, okay? Now, when you're developing self-awareness, questions are the most powerful thing you can do, okay? Activities develop positive change. Learning project could be, go up to somebody and ask for 2 sets of feedback and just say thank you, which conditions a cadence of becoming self-aware. The motivator is to what motivates them. What's their personal motivation? So if somebody wants to become a boss or work in a different department or do a different type of work, you can bring that into the conversation. And then supplemental coaching are things like books or videos or observations or journal-based coaching. I mean, there's a variety of techniques that we teach. So with that being said, after we get done, the president and I sit down, and he said, what'd you think? And I said, wow, he's really lacking self-awareness. He said, oh, I know. And I said, I've got a weird idea for you. And the president looks at me and goes, well, I got to coach this guy. I got to spend more time with him. I go, I don't think so. He goes, excuse me? And I said, I think he's so conditioned to help. I said, when I walk into your organization from across the lobby, he yells to me. He has no self-awareness how obnoxious that is. Yet at the foundation, he's one of the nicest, most helpful people you ever meet. Here's the funny thing about this guy. Everybody disliked him. Nobody wanted to work with him. The HR manager said, I want to kill this guy. He just blurts stuff out in meetings. The funny thing is, he's one of the nicest, most helpful people you ever meet. So we did something. So I'm going to go back to my QALMS model here. What I did is I had him, the president, ask him to send a weekly email answering the following questions. What did you learn differently this week? What did you learn about yourself as you engage with other employees thoughtfully and professionally that you're committed to improving? What actions are you willing to take going forward to continue to build self-awareness? So all I did is had him use it via email, but I said, don't physically get together with him. The supplemental coaching strategy, we did 2 things. One, we got him a book called Emotional Intelligence 2.0 by Travis Bradbury, who's one of the great leaders of emotional intelligence. Number 2, we had him journal observations of people, which was at a Starbucks coffee shop across the street from the organization. We had him observe how the people behind the counters communicated. He goes, are you serious? I said, just try it. And after about a month, we started to notice a difference. The president called me and goes, I can't believe this. Gets up out of his chair. He walks across the lobby. And I'm a big fan of Starbucks. I'm not a coffee drinker, but I like their training. I like the way they interact with each other. They tend to be extremely cohesive, helpful teams. So what he was seeing was not himself. It was a mirror. It wasn't a mirror, look what you're doing wrong. It was a mirror, look what you could do. And over about 6 months, he dramatically changed. Now, does he battle it? Sure. Does he have a trigger to yell across the lobby? Sure. Does he have a trigger to touch my nose? Probably. Yet what was so cool about it is we started to develop self-awareness, which transcends itself into other areas. So again, I go back to a highly self-aware person is somebody who seeks feedback, says thank you, absorbs it, realizes it can be a perception, something that they have an opportunity to alter. It is not something that they should immediately get highly resistant. So here's the funny thing. Whether you're doing mentoring, coaching, leading, providing feedback, coaching, providing online training programs, cultivate some self-awareness. Ask those questions. What did you learn? What did you learn about yourself you're positively committed to improving? What are the positive action steps you're going to take going forward? See, when we have self-awareness, we have the ability to control emotions. See, here's the funny thing about people. If I say you have a bad attitude, I can get your blood pressure up 10 points in a matter of 1 or 2 sentences. I actually have that control with most people, as do you. So when we get conditioned to seek feedback and just say thank you, when we are conditioned and well practiced to take a deep breath and reflect and say, wow, this person gave me some valuable insight to where I can improve. Is it easy? No. At the foundation of conflict, poor conversations, why people quit their jobs, it will always be at the foundation of self-awareness. Here's why. Self-awareness is a person's ability to look in the mirror and say, yes, it's me, versus say, no, 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 it's them. You know why I can say that with confidence? Cross-departmental teams. We hear the term what? Silos. Silos are born not out of negativity. They're not born out of arduous interactions. They're born out of, I got to protect what we built. So I become less self-aware. Let me give you an example. When sales are up, do you honestly think a sales team is going to say, oh, it's not us. We did an average job. The marketing people were fantastic. When sales go down, wasn't us. I just think we need better marketing, or vice versa. So a lot of times when teams have cross-departmental challenges, they're lacking team self-awareness. So remember why we coach. Number one, getting people to look in the mirror. Number two, getting them to take action on what they see. How do we develop self-awareness? We have to ask questions. Now, remember, we can also use different frameworks like qualms, questions, activities, learning projects, coaching to someone's motivation, supplemental coaching, having people observe other people and writing things down positively. All of these things will help you as you go forward. Now, here at Progress Coaching, we are developing a 5-step stage self-awareness development program for teams. If you are a leader or a trainer and you're looking for a methodology, it is a 6-month program where we go through 5 stages. And the 5 stages of self-awareness, of where we actually don't train and just educate. People actually have to take actions, much like what I alluded to in this video presentation today. So if you're interested, send me an email. Just put on the subject line, self-awareness program. I'll send you some information. It'll blow you away. This has been our passion probably for the last 10 years. No matter what you do, how you engage, how you develop talent, how you cultivate talent, how you challenge talent, how you have conversations of conflict, how you provide feedback. At the foundation is the acceptance based on their ability to become self-aware. It takes know-how and it certainly takes practice. If you're intrigued by this presentation, send me an email. Just put on the subject line, self-awareness program. I will send you some information. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate your time. I hope this is helpful. Let me know. Put some comments in the chat and we'll go from there. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.